You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Welcome back, Michelle, for the next to last time. We're previewing football.
Yeah, I know. It seems weird to think that it's almost over. Although with the snow that took place on today, which is today being Thursday,
Thursday.
um,
Susie.
I guess it's probably time to turn the page a little bit. Um, Fans enjoy football, although at least they only have one weekend to worry about temperatures
That's
because
right.
after this weekend, next weekend, all the games will be played inside.
Yeah, and
I
with
don't think, and I'm pretty sure that Lucas Oil will have the roof closed for all of those state championship games too.
of course we lost all four of our local teams last week, so we are completely out of local teams. So that's okay. We're still going to talk about football for the next couple of weeks. We're going to do a little scoreboard tomorrow night, Friday night. Dang it. Friday night. It's been 6 months, Michelle, and I still can't remember to say the name of the day of the week instead of the can't get used to it.
Hey, I know it's I know I do the
After
same
years
thing.
and years of
So
doing the newspaper stuff, it's hard to adjust. Let's just start with 6A and start in the north, Michelle, and I will go through these. Feel free to interrupt me at any time.
okay,
All right, number 2 Crown Point and number 3 Westfield meet in the 6A North Semi-State. Crown Point is the only remaining unbeaten team in Class 6A. The Bulldogs made the state finals last year for the first time. They beat number 1 Westfield in double overtime in last year's semi-state, so they're going to be familiar with each other. The Shamrocks are 11-1. They've won 6 games in a row. Their only loss came September 28th at Brownsburg. Um, and that was 17-13. Westfield won a 5A state championship in 2016, but has never won a 6A title. It looks like they got a pretty good shot.
yeah, they do. Westfield, I'm sure, has got a little chip on its shoulder after last year, and they probably know exactly what was it, what were the turning points in that game and the difference. And my guess is, they're going to be extra motivated for that game. Though I think Crown Point's going to be motivated too to make it back to the state finals. I don't know. There's just something about this the Westfield program and the Westfield team here of late, and I won't be surprised if Westfield's playing in the 6A state championship game next weekend.
The Sagger projection has Westfield by 3. By the way, Michelle, when I was in high school, Westfield was Class 2A. Uh, and it should be, I think the Final Four looks pretty wide open. 6A South, Brownsburg is in that one. Westfield and Brownsburg tied for the Hoosier Crossroads Championship and could meet next week in the state championship to break that tie.
Yeah, they they really could. Maybe Brownsburg is maybe they're kind of a team of destiny. I don't know. Center Grove though, they are tournament tested,
No doubt.
experienced through the years. You know what? Their win out against Warren Central was pretty impressive last week. Although I'd also say Brownsburg coming back and beating Lawrence North like they did was pretty impressive as well. I
Yes.
think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a great. I think it'll be a great matchup. And again, I'm for Adam Armstrong, former Tipton Lady Devil basketball assistant coach, and who is the JV coach at Carmel now. He is a Brownsburg graduate, so for Adam, I will pick Brownsburg and say go Bulldogs.
Brownsburg's only loss came October 18th, 30-23 at Hamilton Southeastern. Last week, as you mentioned, the fourth ranked Bulldogs won their first regional championship since 1985. They won state championships in 84 and 85. Center Grove has done very little but win championships this century, Michelle. The 11th ranked Trojans have won 14 consecutive sectional championships, 6 straight regional championships last week. They won the state championship in 2008, 2015, 2020, 2021, 2022. And last year they were beaten in overtime in the semi-state by Ben Davis. Surprisingly, Michelle, Center Grove and Brownsburg, they used to both be in the mid-state conference. They haven't played each other since 1990.
Oh wow, yeah. And hey, Brownsburg may have one thing going for it in this game. If Center Grove last lost in the semi-state last year, it was to a team with the colors of purple and white. Oh, guess what?
There you
Brownsburg
go.
happens to have those exact same colors.
Do you have a guess on the Sagarin projection?
Brownsburg by 6.
Center Grove by 5.
All right.
That's very surprising. But at Center Grove, that's going to be a interesting game. And I
It
agree.
is.
I agree with you. I think it's Brownsburg in this one. But I've picked against Center Grove 2 weeks in a row. So what do I
Well,
know?
and like I said, I won't be surprised if Center Grove is the one that comes out of
No,
that at
I don't.
all. But it would be nice to see Brownsburg, since they haven't been there in a long time, to get back. And they've had a great season, and would love to see it be rewarded, for those kids being rewarded.
Class 5A in the South. We're going to start in the South with number 4 Decatur Central and number 13 Bloomington South. Both come into the semi-state with impressive postseason resumes. Decatur is 9-2 and coming off wins over number 5 Plainfield 35-7 and number 9 East Central, the two-time reigning 4A state champion, on their way to Bloomington. South just went 5-4 in the regular season, but avenged one of those losses in the sectional championship against Bloomington North, then defeated Castle 28-21 in last week's regional. South won its second straight regional, but hasn't won a semi-state since 1998. That surprised me. The Hawks beat South 24-12 last year in the semi-state before falling to Snyder in the 5A state championship.
Bloomington has become a football town in just a year. And a little buzz down there. So I'm sure that South would like to ride some of that buzz and everything. But I think Decatur Central, I think they're just probably just too strong, and I would expect them to win. And do you want me to guess the second ratings, or you want to
Go
talk a little
ahead,
bit?
guess it, but I agree with you.
All right. I would say that the Sagarin has Decatur Central winning by 12 or 14.
It's by 7. I would probably agree with you though. Probably something more like 12-14 is my guess. But it's by 7.
Okay. Sagarin ratings get a little tighter when we get to this level
Yes,
of
they do.
the tournament, don't they?
Yes, they do. Class 5A North, number 3 Merrillville and number 9 Warsaw meet in the 5A North semi-state. 11-1 Merrillville's only loss came in week 3 against 6A regional champion Crown Point, 46-13. The Pirates won their 5th straight regional champion last Friday, but have never won a semi-state championship. They won the 1976 state championship, but of course back then there was no such thing as a semi-state. And 9-3 Warsaw's won 6 straight games, including 31-28 on the road against number 1 Concord in the sectional championship. Then in the regional championship last week, beat number 2 Lafayette Jeff 44-27. So they've beaten number 1 and number 2 on their way to this game. So the last 2 weeks have been very impressive for Warsaw. The Tigers and Pirates have only played once. Merrillville beat Warsaw 42-28 in the 2019 regional. Got a guess on the Sagarin rating, Michelle? Those are two teams we just know nothing about.
Maryville by 10?
Merrillville by 3.
Ooh.
Warsaw's
So,
been playing really well.
yes, Warsaw has been playing really well. You know, again, they win won't surprise me. I'll just but I'm going to go with Maryville. I think I've been gone within the last couple of weeks, and I'll stay with them. So I think it'll be Maryville and Decatur Central, Lucas Oil on next weekend.
I'll take Decatur Central and Warsaw. I think Warsaw is playing really well, and I like their chances to go 1, 2, 3, and then 4 the next week.
There you go.
Wonder how often that's happened.
Not very often, I
Not very
would
often, I
if
would
at all.
imagine. All right, now one of the teams we're most interested in this week in the 4A South. With last week's overtime win over Chittard, unbeaten New Pal has won 7 regional championships in the last 12 years. On Friday, the top-ranked Dragons will play number 3 Martinsville for their 5th semi-state championship in the last 11 years. They've won 3 state championships in that time as well. This year's Dragons are beating teams by an average of 40-9 overall and 35-12 in the postseason. The Dragons are heavy favorites Friday in the South Semi-State against third-ranked Artesians. Martinsville won its first regional championship in 28 years last week by beating Evansville Wrights 35-28. The two teams have never played each other. Michelle, your guess on the Sagarin rating?
We said an overwhelming favorite, so I would say New Pal by 16.
New Pal by 23.
All right. I mean, I think this game is probably going to might be the one runaway game. However, you can't. I believe New Pal's going to win because
Right.
you and I've said that all along.
Yes.
However, if New Pal overlooks, and I know people say, "Well, you're in the semi-state. How can you overlook it?" Well, New Pal's got that that heavy tradition. Martinsville hasn't been there, and everything. If New Pal looks ahead and is maybe not as sharply tuned as what they need to be, or down players or something, but if they would turn the ball over, I think that's the only way that Martinsville can make this a game.
Yeah, I don't think there's a single game this Friday that we know who's going to win, but that's the one we probably have the best idea of who's going to win.
Yes.
In the North, number 2 East Noble goes to number 6 Mishawaka for the 4A semi-state. No player in this game has ever played in a semi-state. Last week, 2000 state champion East Noble won its first regional since 2019 by beating Huntington North 52-17. Mishawaka, the Cavemen, won their only semi-state in 2012. Won their first regional since 2018 last week with a 21-7 win over New Prairie. The Knights defeated Mishawaka 34-29 to open the 2019 season. It's the only meeting ever between the two teams.
Wow.
Yeah, the Sagarin rating prediction, Michelle, your guess?
Where's the game being
At
played?
Mishawaka.
Mishawaka by 1.
East Noble by 8.
East Noble by 8. East Noble probably is the favored team, just rankings and everything along that. I, probably for Mishawaka to really have a shot when you pay attention. If I believe right things I've followed on Twitter. I didn't call up and don't have their scores from their season right by me, but I think they're pretty much a defensive minded team. I don't think they have a lot of high
Yes.
scoring games. So, it's going to be a lot of that. When you have a team like that, weather can play a part in that. What's the weather going to be like? Does it favor a team that plays really good defense?
Yes. Weather
You
could,
know,
when it's snowing, it kind of changes a lot of different factors, doesn't it?
it does. And if you're a team that's played good defense all along and you're used to low scoring and can be tight games, especially heading into the fourth quarter, I think, and especially when you're the home team, I think it can be beneficial to you. Um, I wouldn't mind seeing Mishawaka win and everything that said. I do think it's going to be a hard fought game, but I do think East Noble will probably come out on top.
I do not disagree with that one. All right, Class 3A North, Northeast Powers, Garrett, and Lures meet in the 3A North semi-state. Lures is playing for its 18th trip to the state finals when it hosts number 4 Garrett. Last year, the 12-time state champion Knights won their first state championship since 2012. All 12 of them, though, have come in Class 2A. Garrett has been one of the top-ranked teams all year and came from behind to beat Knox 41-40 last week. The Railroaders have never won a semi-state championship, but as we talked about earlier, they did win the 1974 state championship before there was any such thing as a semi-state. Lures is 7-0 all-time against Garrett. All 7 meetings were in 2A sectionals. All 7 wins were by double figures. Again, this is at Garrett.
This
Oh,
team
sorry,
is at
at
Garrett.
Lures. At
At
Lures.
Lure. Oh, you want me to guess the Saga
I
ratings?
do. The Sagarin projection at Lures.
Lures by 10.
Garrett by 1.
Garrett by 1. All right. Here's
But
what I'm going to say.
Lures has been an underdog a couple of times already.
Well, man, here's what I think. I think Lures. I mean, people have kind of knew kind of how they were going to go with the new classification system, the percentages and different ways they were doing things. Um, and so if their last regional came in 2012, that means that they have become accustomed to being a 3A school now. And as such, with their enrollment and everything, um, though I know supposedly the parochial schools don't recruit, they just end up with a high percentage of extra kids that are in extracurriculars.
Hey, Christians and Catholics are just good football players, Michelle.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see how many of that roster they live in the state of Indiana or they live in the state of Ohio. But here's the thing: Lures has adjusted. They know they've been in 3A now, and they know they're kind of staying there. Um, that their experience, I would love to see Garrett. Personally, if it's possible, I'd love to see. It's real rare for it to happen, but I would love to see all 12 teams playing in Lucas Oil next weekend all be public high school teams.
That
No,
would be
and
pretty
I have
cool.
nothing against Parocos because there
No,
are
of course not.
some good things, and I know
Yes.
why. I know how and why the Central Catholic was started. Um, it was started because of a Catholic family. They wanted their kids. The parents were both Catholic. One had gone through Catholic schools, and wanted a Catholic high school for their children. And so they went together, and and
Yeah.
they got it. And so there's nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
How, However, it would be nice. So, but I just, and I could be wrong.
I am I am pro private school all the way. I love the idea of private schools, but you're right. There have been years where I think for a long time there were no private schools in the highest class, but there were years
Right.
that the private schools were winning every single one, besides the big school class. And yeah, I agree. It's nice to
Yeah.
see those community schools do well.
Yeah, I mean that's just it. Cathedral's the only one that really ever bumps up to 6A, and they don't usually stay there very long because with the tournament success factor because they kind of dominate in 5A, and then as soon as they go up to 6A, whoops, come back to
Yep,
earth and
that's right.
end up back down in 5A. Because those those kids from Carmel and north side of Indianapolis or other schools that are really good, but they want a smaller, or they want a different environment, end up at Cathedral. Well, guess what? When they're in 6A, everybody has a lot of those kids, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, but so I would love it if Garrett pulls it out and everything. I just I think Lures I think it'll be a close one. I mean it's all gonna come down to Lures, I believe. Am I not remembering this right? You know, in the sectional against Mississippi one and the regional against Mechaniqua, they jumped out to leads and then were able to hold on. I mean, the other
That's
teams
right.
rallied, but they were able to hold on. That's
Correct.
probably, can Lures continue to hold on, and can they jump out to a lead? Because you know, if it's reversed, if Garrett jumps on top by a good margin early, it will be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah,
Um,
Garrett was down big last week to Knox. I believe they were down 20 points at one time.
yeah, so we know Garrett can come back. So that could be a lot like this game. Could almost be like the Chittard New Pal game last week.
In the South, number three Heritage hosts Batesville, one of only three unranked teams playing in any of the 12 semi-states this Friday. The Bulldogs, we've had a lot of Bulldogs playing on Friday, upset Lawrenceburg and Tri-West to win their first regional championship in 38 years. They're playing for their first semi-state championship ever, and it's going to be quite a challenge. Not only are they on the road for the first time in 3 weeks, they're going to have to go to Santa Claus, Michelle, to face Heritage Hills, a program that won its 12th regional championship last Friday with a 50-7 win over North Harrison. This week, the Patriots are playing in their fifth semi-state championship already this century. A major reason Batesville hadn't won a regional in so long was because they were beaten 5 years in a row by Heritage Hills in the regional from 2001 to 2005. The Patriots also beat the Bulldogs 24-21 for the regional championship last year. You have a guess on the Sagarin rating, Michelle?
Heritage Hills by 14.
That is exactly right. Perfect guess. You get extra bonus points for that one.
And I won't be surprised if it is Heritage Hills by 14 or even maybe tack on one more touchdown.
Agreed. But, the last time they played was 24-21. If it's something like that, it won't surprise me either. But I would expect Heritage Hills to win fairly comfortably. In the 2A North, Adams Central is the three-time reigning regional champion, or sorry, semi-state champion, in Class A, of course. The games are a little tougher in Class 2A. The 12-1 Jets will face one of their toughest challenges in the North, maybe in the last 4 years, in 9-4 Andrean. Both teams looked great last week. Adams Central beat Eastern 42-7 to win the program's first 2A regional championship. Unranked Andrean beat number 1 Central Catholic 20-17 for the program's third regional title in the last 4 years. So on Friday, the 59ers are playing for their third trip to state in the last 4 years. Needless to say, these programs are used to playing and winning semi-states, Michelle.
Yeah, this game will probably actually come down to who makes the fewest mistakes, who doesn't turn the ball over, who doesn't, come up with costly penalties, who special teams are really good and on target, muff punts, muff kickoffs, PATs, that kind of stuff, all going to be very important in that game because what you have is, you have an Adams Central team that Eastern played them very well early on for a quarter and a half, for a quarter and a half halftime, really.
Yeah.
And I think they wore down Eastern and, wore them down. I mean, that's what Adams Central does. There's no secret to what they do. Now, their quarterback can throw the ball. He does throw a good ball from what I saw against Eastern. But Andrean, again, that's a parochial school. I don't see them getting worn down. So I do really believe that. And where's this game being played again?
That game is at Andrean.
Well, then I will give the edge to Andrian. Again, I I would love to see Adams Central, um, a public school, and it would be great to see him go up and show that, hey, we're just good. It doesn't matter if we are 1A or 2A, we're just good, which I think they've already proven they're just good.
Yes.
Um, so, but I think with the trip to Gary, Andrian has tournament success too. Um, so I'm gonna, I will say Andrian, but no more than I don't think it will be by more than a score, like
Well,
6, 7, 8.
Andrean by 6.
Okay.
Very good. You are on it tonight. All right, in the South, number 7 Linton Stockton shocked number 1 Brownstown Central 22-21 at home last Friday. It will take an even bigger effort this Friday to get the Miners to state for the third time in 9 years. They face third-ranked Indianapolis Lutheran, who won the Class A state championship the last 3 years. The Saints have won 21 consecutive postseason games after Friday's 35-0 win over Lapel. The two teams have met once. Linton won 43-14 in the Semistate on their way to the 2016 2A state championship. Michelle, you have a guess on the Sagarin rating?
Lutheran by 6.
Lutheran by 18.
See, I don't think it'll. If it is that big, I guess it won't shock me. But Linton is not, no slouch, and to get the win that they did last week, and those players are gonna be believing in it. Could just be that they just put everything together at the right time. Um, you know, uh,
Absolutely.
so it'll be. I'll be rooting for Linton. It won't surprise me if Lutheran wins. It is at Lucas Oil against Andrian next week, battling for 2A, and it seems, unfortunately, it seems a lot of times that the Class 2A state championship, it's rarely, about 3 out of every 4 years. It's 2 parochial schools or at least 1 parochial school in the state championship in 2A.
That's right. It happens an awful lot. All right, Class A in the North. North Judson entered the season number 1 after Lutheran and Adams Central moved up to 2A. The Blue Jays are unbeaten, outscoring opponents by 47 points a game. And like I said, have been number 1 all year. It's been an historic run for North Judson, but that's only because um, Adams Central moved out of the way. They lost to Adams Central in the semi-state the last 3 years. Their last semi-state title came in 1986. Now it's another Adams County opponent, Michelle. This time it's South Adams, a program that knows the misery of being in the same sectional as Adams Central. Like they have been in the last half decade, been really good and have been able to beat Adams Central. The 8-5 Starfires have one of Class A's top finals, but of course, like I said, one of the best programs in the state's right down the road. So now both teams get an opportunity to get to state, but only one can do it. Michelle, what's your guess on the Sagarin projection?
North Judson by 12.
North Judson by 23.
Wow, another. I think that one's a big. It
I
could
do
happen.
too, as
But
we
you and I,
discussed.
but you and I both know that South Adams won't. The one thing about South Adams is they'll play from the opening kickoff to the final whistle.
Yes, I do not believe it'll be 23 points.
Yeah, I don't. I don't think so either. Now, I believe it could be 23 if the weather is not conducive to allow South Adams to be able to throw the football. Because I do
Good
think
point.
throwing the football is key to their success. I just think it's really hard to emulate sometimes a no huddle, fast paced tempo game. I think it's easier to prepare for it if they're running no huddle and primarily a running team, kind of like Eastbrook, where they run 85 to 90% of the time and throw, 10 to 15% of the time, because you kind of, you know, as a secondary, you're not, but when a team's as a secondary, you're not as concerned when they're running, about making sure if you're adjusting secondary coverages, you're probably going to be okay. But if it's a team that can pass the ball well, then, and if they run that quick pace, it can kind of wear you down, especially if, say, they have a if they can plug in different receivers and run your secondary guys deep. You can rotate in, and sometimes you'll rotate receivers and you'll rotate who goes deep, but you could be picking on the same quarterback, because a lot of high schools, their quarterbacks, they don't match up necessarily with receivers. They match up either strong side, weak side, how that goes. So I think it'll be a close game. Uh, I it wouldn't bother me to see the Starfires get there. I mean, that's was Tipton beat them in week 1, so that's always kind of nice when you get to go back and say, hey, we lost to a team that made it to the state championship, even if it was a different class. But North Judson, I said it last week, I'll pick North Judson, the alma mater, a former Tipton mayor and good friend of my family's, Tom Dozel.
All right. Well, go Blue
Yeah.
Jays. And then the Class A South Semi-State, our final one, Michelle, should be a really good one. Number 6 South Putnam, fresh off a 60-19 win over Sheridan, goes to Clarksville, a long drive, to take on the third-ranked and unbeaten Providence Pioneers. In the postseason, South Putnam is beating teams by 37 points per game. Of course, Providence is the best team the Eagles will have played so far. The Pioneers came into the postseason with wins over a 4A team, 3A teams, a 2A, and strong programs from Kentucky and Tennessee on their way to 12-0. Providence won its first regional last Friday since 1993, which is really hard to believe with all the success they've had. With a 20-10 win over Milan, South Putnam hadn't won a regional since 2002 and hasn't been to state since 1986, so this is fairly new territory for two really good teams.
Yeah, it is. And, you would think possibly that with the schedule that Providence has played, that they might have been better than 20-10 winners over Milan. In talking to Cody Emerson last week, we know South Putnam is fast. They have really fast kids. My guess is Providence, we know from your time down there, they have good athletes. It'll be this. Does Providence athletes, can they match up with South Putnam's speed to keep that speed contained? If South Putnam can get to the outside, that could be a heck of a game.
That would could be a really good game.
Yeah, and I sit there and because it takes me, this is Class A, but it takes me back to, again, 1988 when Tipton beat Dwenger on that Brad Green's 46-yard field goal as time expires. But, Dwenger had the ability to pass. I mean, Tipton could too, but they were strong in the middle. So Tipton had to get to the outside, throw the ball. They had to run to the outside. They couldn't do anything in that area because Dwenger, again, good athletes, good players, but Tipton was able to break enough plays to the outside. So that's that, to me, that's where this is. If Providence can match South Putnam's speed on the outside, and that in their back end, their secondary, their linebackers um, to keep that speed contained, then Providence probably wins this game. If not, if South Putnam can get those fast kids in open space, then they have a good shot at pulling out the win. I think it's going to be a close game, though.
All right.
Potential to
What's
be a close game.
Sagarin rating? Sagarin projection guess at Providence.
Providence by 7?
South Putnam by 1.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I think when we talked. By the way, we expect to hear from Cody again this Friday. Um, that's a very impressive team. Again, Providence's resume with all those teams is good. Um, I don't want to say that Southern Indiana football isn't good in that area, but it's not like it is in a lot of the states. So that can be a little deceiving, but that is definitely a very good Providence team. But man, I think that one's of all the games, that one, Westfield and Crown Point. I just have no idea which team is going to win. Those are the two games to me that stand out the most as 50-50.
Yes, I would agree with you on that, and maybe possibly even the Lures Garrett game in there.
Could be, yeah, for sure.
That might be the third one. I mean, that might be that way.
A lot of good football games on Friday. Michelle, you and I are going to start shifting gears into into basketball, both boys and girls. But I said boys because we planned on doing our CIC basketball preview tonight. Some factors forced us to move it to early next week, but we expect to have 6, 7, or 8 coaches on to talk about their seasons coming up. So we have 6 confirmed going to be on the podcast. We hope to have all 8 talking about CIC basketball. And of course, we're already 3 weeks into the girls' basketball season. So gears are shifting.
Yeah, and actually, Friday night has a full slate of girls' games for me. The Blue Devils are traveling to Western, in a Hoosier Conference contest, and the Lady Trojans of Tri Central are playing at Taylor in the Hoosier Heartland conference. Um, Frankton is not playing a conference game, but they are entertaining their arch rival and school corporation rival, Lapel.
That's
And
right.
then Elwood is at Cowan, I believe, on Friday night.
And
I
you
know
and
they play back to back, and I think it's Cowan that they're traveling to on Friday night. So full slate of games for me tomorrow night
you and I will
or
be
Friday night.
you and I will be live with a scoreboard on Friday night, right?
Yes, we will. I depending on weather, but I think I may go over and I may be getting you after I go watch Frankton and Lapel girls.
Awesome. Okay. So we will have football. We'll have a football scoreboard and a girls basketball scoreboard on Friday, with only a few football games. It shouldn't be that hard to fit it in. So we're gonna give it a shot, Michelle.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. Oh, and one more thing. Again, do not forget to go vote for
Oh,
our athletes of the week. We have there are 6 girls nominated, nominee from each of Elwood, Alexandria, Madison Grant, Frankton, Tipton, Tri Central. We have Emerson Atkins, wrestler from Tipton. We have a wrestler from Elwood, Cronden, something like that. I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name. And then we have basketball players, Jacqueline Hosier, who had a triple double and a near triple double for Alexandria. The Jasmine Rainey from Madison Grant, basketball player, and Logan Creason from Tri Central, basketball player, and Emma Key, a Frankton Lady Eagle basketball player. And then for the boys, we only have 3 nominees: Alexandria, Elwood, and Frankton. They each have a bowler nominated. We will have we next week we'll have should be back to 6 nominees for girls and 6 nominees for boys, because with wrestling starting this week, we will have boys wrestling to add, and then from then on we'll be having boys basketball and swimmers, and soon we'll have also the girls swimmers. So I think maybe I don't, so we're getting into the full slate
Full
of
slate. Yeah. Starts
yes,
next week.
yeah. So to vote, go to contest.cherryroad.com.
All right. Thanks again, Michelle. We'll talk to you on Friday.
All right.
Thanks again to Michelle for joining me for the football semi-state preview. And thank you for listening. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, or follow us, and tell a friend. Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. And I love Susie.